So today we'll be doing a PCR reaction. So before we start, I'm going to go over what reagents we'll be using and how we'll be using them. So we have the nucleus-free water. We also have a PCR master mix, which includes our polymerase and our nucleotides. We have the DNA we will be using. And finally, we have reverse and forward primers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spin down our primers to make sure they're at the bottom because we have so few of them. And then we'll continue adding reagents as we go along. So first, we're going to spin down our primers to make sure everything's at the bottom. So always make sure they're in opposite sides. These are reverse and forward primers. And we're going to spin them for about 1 minute. So now we're going to start adding reagents to our two test tubes where I mark positive and negative. Positive will have DNA and negative will not have DNA. We can compare to see what the difference is. So first, we're going to start off by adding our nucleus-free water. We're going to add more water into the negative because we won't be adding DNA, so that the final dilution is the same. So we're going to start off by adding 8.4 to the negative and then 7.4 to the positive. So set your pipetter to 8.4. You can grab your water. It helps if you open these ahead of time because they are smaller. Again, make sure to keep everything on ice just to be extra cautious. So we're gonna open up our water. It's not going to be a lot, but it's important to be accurate. As you can see, the water's at the bottom. And since these are clean, we can just use the same pipette tip. 7.4. Again, with the water. Perfect. Now we're going to add 10 microliters of our PCR master mix. This will be added to each of them. And again, this includes our polymerase and our nucleic acids we'll be using for the PCR reaction. So open it up. And to the negative. Make sure you get all the liquid in there. Perfect. So now we're going to be switching to smaller pipetter because we'll be adding our forward and reverse primers. We only need 0.84, so it's not much. And it's important we be careful with them. And we use smaller pipette tips as well. So 0.8. Close this up because we won't be needing it again. Let's start off with the forward primer. And it's important to be careful in this step because you are using so small, such a small amount. You want to make sure that you're grabbing something. So you really want to take care with this one. Yep. long as it's in the tube, that's fine. We'll be mixing these later down the line. So don't worry about if it's on the side or not. Ideally, it should be in the liquid. Now into the negative control. Now that we added the forward primers, we're going to be adding our reverse primers. The same deal. That's our negative control done. We're then going to add our final part here, and that's the DNA to the positive control. We're going to be adding 1 microliter, and this is depending on our dilution and our concentration, so the amount of DNA may differ between samples. So you'll just alter the amount of water that you use to dilute depending on how much DNA you have. You don't need much DNA, so we're just going to grab our DNA here. Pipette it up and down to make sure all our DNA is in there, and we should be good to go. All right, so now that we've finished, we're going to run this on the thermal cycler. So when you first turn it on, you're going to want to turn it on from the back. There's a button. You want to click this one over here, and it's going to take a while to warm up, but when you're on the main screen, it's going to look something like this. Now you're going to have different tools. New protocol, that's what we're going to be using today. Save protocol in case you have a protocol saved. Incubate in case you just want to use it as an incubator for an extended period of time. And tools are just to play with the settings of the machine. But for most part, you're just going to go into new protocol. When you do new protocol, this is what you're going to see. So there's a lot of different numbers, so we're going to go through it step by step. First, you're going to see volume, and you're going to say the volume of each tube that you're going to put into your thermal cycler. It's important so it can make the proper calculations and know exactly how fast and how slow it should heat up. So we put 50 as the base. Lid just tells you the temperature starting off, or the lid temperature at the point. Usually you can leave this by itself, but if you have any specifications, you can do so. Then, going from left to right is the default template. So 95 degrees is the initial point where it will denature your DNA, followed by your cycle of 95 degree denature, 55 degree annealing, so where the primers will anneal to your DNA, 72 degrees, which is elongation, and finally your go-to step, which will tell you how many times you want this repeated. All these numbers are subject to change depending on your protocol, depending on your primers, and depending on manufacturer specifications. In this case, we have a 30-second denaturation step, 30-second annealing step, and a 1-minute elongation step, and this is going to be repeated 34 times. So if we wanted to repeat it 40 times, for example, you'd click here, you'd click 40, click OK, and now you're repeating 40 times. Finally, after your chain reaction is completed, after you've cycled it 40 times, it will do one final annealing and elongation step, followed by holding. In this case, it's holding at 12 degrees. And let's just say you want to hold it at 4 degrees. You're able to do so 4 degrees. You're going to click OK. And we'll hold it so your DNA doesn't denature. So that's how you do PCR. And to go over the bottom part, Home sends you back to the main screen. Insert allows you to insert a new step. So whether you want temperature, you want an ingredient, or you want something to be repeated again, depending on your protocol, you're able to do so. Delete removes the step. In this case, let's just say I don't want it to hold. Options allows you to play with the settings, whether you want to do a gradient of heating, so you want different samples to heat at different times, duration, the temperature, and how fast and how slow you want it to heat up. There's a lot of different ways you can play and different ways you can change the settings, but usually the default settings are fine unless you have specific requirements. If it's something you're going to do often, you can save this protocol. You can give it a name. You can put what folder you want to put it into. You can click MMB if you're in the MMB lab. We'll call this test. And we'll click save. This way, you don't have to redo this every single time depending on your primers. And finally, when you're ready, you can open the top up, insert your tubes, making sure you remember how you did them along with where you put them. You can close this down, make sure this goes all the way till you hear a click, and then you can finally just click run. And this tells you just to confirm the volume. You click 50, in case you're 50, click OK, and you'll see this interface. It will tell you how much time is remaining, name of your protocol, your volume, and what step is being done at what time. So whatever's highlighted is being conducted. And finally, you can view the timers, you can pause it, or you can just skip the step, or you can cancel the protocol. So now all you have to do is come back after 2 hours and collect your samples. And that's how you use the thermal cycler for PCR.